mute. Now it's
No, no, no.
okay. So I'll unmute it or
No, unmute.
okay, unmute. Okay. Up. Hey, hey, hey.
Okay, guys, we're going to start. Today we will have one talk, and this talk would be given by our head of backend engineering from Israel office, and it would be Ittai. And he is going to talk about how Wix adopted the good programming practices.
Hi, can you hear me at the back? Excellent. Okay, so finding your organization's code deodorant. Why is that interesting? So if you're here, I'm guessing you're passionate about clean code. But why is it interesting on the organizational level? It's interesting because code is a collaborative effort. And even if you adopt clean code by yourself, but everyone around you doesn't, then the number of WTF moments you have in a day won't be better. They might even be worse. So opportunities for turning things around and promoting clean code are all around us. And today we'll take a look at a few tools which worked for us at Wix and some which haven't. Honestly, we kind of stumbled onto our ways of promoting clean code as it was just the side effect of trying to mitigate a serious technical debt issue. But we try to constantly experiment and embrace techniques which help us iterate quickly and better, and that's why we continue to invest in it. So by the end of this talk, you will all have the option to choose if you're going to take it to the next level and promote clean code in your own organizations. So my name is Ittai Zeidman, and I'm the head of the backend engineering at Wix. Previously, I was the server software infrastructure team lead, and I'll touch on that in a sec. And I've been a clean code fanatic for around 5 years. And I still remember the day that a coworker gave me clean code by Uncle Bob. And I remember reading it on the way home, and I was mesmerized by how he was able to crystallize such small truths. No comments. Code should be read like a news item. And I remember thinking, oh my God, yes, of course, how did I think about it before? And I've been working at it ever since, and I hope I'll just continue spiraling up. Last but not least, I'm the proud spouse and father of 3 amazing girls. So, who here doesn't know what Wix does? Okay, excellent. Good thing that you do. For the few who doesn't know, so we are an online website building platform, and we make building stunning websites easy. We're home to over 70 million users, and we grew from 50 to 1,000 employees in under 6 years. We have around 350 developers. Now, the clicker is working by itself. This will be interesting to see if I can correlate. So Wix's production topology is pretty polyglot, and you can find there Python and Erlang and Ruby and Node, but our main bread and butter, over 150 microservices, is the JVM. So mostly Scala, and we have some legacy Java. And in numbers, it's around, yeah, so we have a problem with the clicker. We hope it won't record the presentation. So I think we're actually around 180 now, but the number keeps increasing, and we have around 70 developers working on that platform. Now, that platform is powered by open source, an internal framework, and shared libraries. Internally, they're called the server infra, and that's what the server software infra team is responsible for. Now, just to give you some feel, it handles the RPC, test infrastructure, monitoring, security, service lifecycle, and a lot more domains. Now, this is relevant to this talk because this code base is read day in and day out by a lot of developers. It contains more than 50 libraries, and there are more than 60 contributors who are external to the team. So, this story is from the middle of our journey, and the context is legions of developers swarming and requesting all kinds of changes and features to those 15 libraries, and they were riddled with technical debt. Now, I'm all by myself handling those libraries. Now, you can ask, why didn't you recruit more people? We were hiring. It's hard, very hard to find good people, as you probably know, and so it took us a lot of time before we found people that could join the team. By the way, as you probably know, we are still hiring, so Please come on afterwards and chat with us if you want to continue. But so they were hammering me with features and changes, and my manager and I tried to think how can this be sustainable for me to not have burnout and for them to actually get what they need. And we decided that if you need a feature, you can either contribute or have it enter the backlog and just get it when it exits. Now that caused a lot of backlashes, but that's a whole different talk altogether. So we started doing that, and it worked for a while, and then a junior developer needed a feature, and he was requested to contribute just like everyone else. Problem was that the end contribution was very poor in all counts of design, cleanliness, testability, and we did a few cycles of offline, online code review, which helped, but they didn't drive the message home. So I went to my boss and I told him, hey, what do you want me to do with it? Do you want me to do it with him? Do you want me to just do it for him? And he said, I don't care. Everyone has to be able to contribute. If you want to do it with him, that's okay. If you want to take his code and clean up after him and after everyone, that's also okay. And I said, no way am I going to clean up after everyone. No way. Okay, let's continue. We did a few more cycles, and I saw that it's not finishing. So I went to him and I told him, hey, hey, listen, it's now hurting the deadline of other features. Are you sure? And my boss said again, I don't care. Everyone has to be able to contribute. You find a way. And we continued. And it ended up being around 7 or 8 cycles, which was a big investment on my part. But the end contribution was very clean, was very small, and future pull requests from that developer were a lot cleaner. It took a lot less cycles. But if it would end there, then we would probably not be talking right now. The big aha moment for me was that around a week later, that developer came to me all excited and told me, hey, you know what? Over the weekend, I did a home project, and I did via TDD, and I saw how the test of the API and how they talk about the business features. And I was excited. First of all, because I love TDD and clean code, and when I see others excited about it, then I'm also excited for them. But more so when I saw that we worked on one thing, the infra, and it propagated to a whole different area, his whole project. And I started to think and understand that maybe there is a path here of spreading clean code. So we realized two truths during our journey. The first, surprises. Clean code is not going to happen naturally. So Wix is a fast-growing company, both in terms of business and developers. And when we started out, everyone contributed to the infra, right? Like, it's shared code and so on and so on. But when everyone became an abstract enough notion, it meant no one was responsible. So you took a look at the commit log, and you saw a lot of code smells: bad naming, long methods, lack of coverage. We all know those. Now, I'm talking about commits, not shameful commits, commits that you take a look and you see, oh my God, how could he have pushed that? We also had those commits, but most of them were just not a game. Commits that you see that someone could have done better, could have put in a bit more effort, but his change was so small that he didn't have the time. Now, we thought long and hard to understand why this is happening. And we came to the conclusion that the root is context and ownership. Ownership over the long haul. That when you cut a corner now, in a month, you will feel that pain, right? Now, if it's just code base that is shared, and you go and you put something here, especially if it's a large code base, and 6 months later you go and you touch there, yeah, it's not your responsibility. Of course, the problems there, the code smells there, are the other developer that put there, right? It's not you. You are a good developer. So you have to have ownership over the long haul and actually feel the pain, and you have to have context because when you come to a big code base, you have to see the similarities. If you just see a very small part, then it's hard to actually know how to improve it. So code duplication, high coupling, I think, crystallize those problems. Let's take an example. You have library A and library B. Now you need a new feature in library B. And you see a few lines in A that help you do what you need. You have a few options. You can either copy the lines from A to B and be done with it, right? But then you have code duplication. And when you have a bug there, someone will need to fix them in both places. You can either just have B depend on A, but then you have high coupling. And then when you need to use B in a different setting, you might have a problem. Or you can decide to actually see, okay, what does A actually do? What does B actually do? Maybe there is a C library here that both of them need to depend on that. But that is hard, right? Because it requires knowing what A does, what B does, giving C a name, and ownership is because, creating that C library is not a zero effort, right? You have to care a bit about this whole shenanigan. So the second thing is that you have to face it head on. Okay? It won't happen naturally. Because even if every commit contained a very small amount of code smells, over time, your code base becomes riddled with technical debt. And every intersection of it has landmines. And we all know that those tend to blow up when we least have the time to expect them. So how we decided to tackle them? Cleaning your own code. I first decided to raise the bar myself. Now, what I mean by that, I don't mean that my code was perfect, or the situation where you take a look at a code that you wrote 6 months ago or a year ago, you take a look and say, oh my God, did I do that? No way, I could have used this pattern or this library or whatever. So guilty, exactly the same. But the standard I put for myself is that the day I push, I couldn't do any better. Okay? You know those lines where you say, yeah, I could go and talk to someone and consult on how to do it, but I don't have the time. Yeah, I could actually give it a bit more time to see about how I can make this test clearer. So all of those shortcuts, I decided that I'm not giving myself anymore. Now, of course, it's real life. You have production, and sometimes you have to deploy even though your code is 95%. But the task is not done if you've added technical debt. Now, how is that relevant to promoting clean code, right? It's just doing clean code. It's relevant because others read your code, and they start to see what the standard that you put for yourself, and implicitly see the standard that you put for them. But more importantly, you have to walk the talk. You have to actually feel the pain. Because when I do a code review for someone, and I tell them, hey, why do you have this one-line code duplication? And they tell me, really? One line? You're going to talk to me about one line? Why does it matter? And I can tell them, hey, go and look there and see that I extracted that one line, but it added readability. And you can go and look there and see that actual bug that one line caused, and I had to fix it. And you can go and look at that third place and see that I actually kept that one-line code duplication because I waited for the rule of 3. And I wanted to see what abstraction needs to occur. Without doing it, you can't actually mentor, you can't actually teach, and you can't actually demand from people. So feeling the pain is a crucial first step. So next step, harnessing contributions and contributors. So dirty code contributions still kept coming in. Remember the birth story, right? And we decided, so we learned a few things along the journey. If it's not clean before the push, it will never be clean. I started off by just adding post-push email notifications. And I read through all code that was pushed. Okay, and I went up to people and told them, hey, listen, I looked at your commit, excellent work, thanks a lot. What do you think about doing just this small change or maybe doing this smaller factor? And people were very, very receptive and very, very positive, but never had the time to do the change because they were always busy with their next feature. So I understood that I have to draw the line somewhere, and it has to be before the push. So I closed off pushes to master and moved to forks and pull requests on GitHub. Now that stored up a hornet's nest. From people being offended to thinking, what, you don't want my contributions in your pristine code base, to people being offended that we don't think they're good enough engineers and saying, you know what, you don't want my contributions, then no need. And it took a process. First of all, technically, to explain to people, how do you do pull requests from IntelliJ, from the command line, from the GUI? What do you do when you get feedback and you just need to add more commits? I can tell you, they're just added to the pull request. How do you squash at the end? So it may sound tedious or, like, what, is that the problem? Yeah, when you change the way people work, you have to try and have as low bar of entry as possible. And to give people the orientation is a very, very important part. But the more important part is the human part. Getting people on board and explaining to people, hey, it's not that the code base is so pristine that we don't want you to mess it up, but it's so dirty that we need your help with cleaning it up. And it's not a control issue. I want to control whatever goes in. But it's actually a matter of sustainability. And it helped a lot. I can tell you that everyone was on board, but most people were on board. But a backlog began forming up. And so we understood that contributions have to be sustainable. For you, it's okay. For you, meaning reduce the number of iterations that you do per pull request, per developer over time. Because this cannot scale if you have to do 8, 10 iterations per developer per pull request over time. For the contributor, they have to feel that the number of back and forth and number of frustration decreases over time. Otherwise, they won't contribute. For us, it meant establishing a conversation, talking about the motivation for each change. Okay, not just, hey, do this, do that, okay, be done with it. No, but actually talking with people and explaining why. Hey, you know that if you extract that code duplication, maybe you will see this abstraction surfacing, and it will be easier to understand the code base. Talking about how things are done, and not only the end result. Why should you do it via TDD? How does it help you? If you would have driven this API via a test first, you would have felt that it's cumbersome, and we will have been discussing about it right now. And most importantly, leaving space for that discussion. Okay, allowing both the contributor and the reviewer to feel content. The reviewer has to feel that they weren't shoved down with a contribution. Because unlike open source, at the end, 99% of the contributions will be accepted. Okay, it's not an open source project. We can just say to someone, you know what, I don't want your contribution. Most contributions will get in because they are driven by actual need. But the reviewer has to feel that they weren't just shoved down. And the contributor, they have to feel that it's their code at the end. It's not that the reviewer, someone told me that he did a review with someone, and he felt that the end result was just the reviewer sitting on his laptop, writing, typing, and of course. Oh my God. It's okay. This happens. Up. And yeah. Okay. So sorry for that. He felt that the end contribution was just the reviewer typing on his laptop. That is not a productive state. Okay? People won't come back and want to help if they feel you're just monopolizing. So we identified 5 key elements of a good contribution. Number 1, info relevance. The contribution should help several projects. If you have a feature that you think it's super cool, everyone needs it, please don't contribute it. If you have something that's in your project and you just want it out because it's not your core project, so you want to dump it on the shared libraries, please keep it there. Okay? Or better yet, convince others that they actually have the need, but they don't understand. It's like the second degree of code duplication. Excellent. But if we don't see an actual need, we don't want it. A smaller code base is a code base that's easier to clean up and easier to maintain. So let's assume we agreed that we do want your contribution. You ain't gonna need it. Contribute the least code possible and add features later. Okay? All those generic features, add-ons, that person over there, he will need the ability to have a super builder. No, he won't. Let's wait and see if we'll actually need it. Because I can tell you that in our code base, the ones driven before these changes, we have a lot of unused changes in code, and we're just trying to understand how to see who uses it and who doesn't in order to remove them. So this can contradict, by the way, with stable APIs from shared libraries, which is a big thing, but we're working day in and day out to see how to resolve it. The Boy Scout rule. Contributions leave existing libraries code cleaner. Now we talked about removing or inducing technical debt. That's one of the key features. You contribute to an existing library, excellent. Try to do local changes which help us maintain and maintain better. It can be just renaming a test method from talking about how something was implemented to why. What's actually the feature that it's driving. It can be introducing a private method in the production code. Renaming a variable. Those are all local changes that are very, very much accepted if you think that they help the maintenance and help readability. TDD. Every API has a purpose and was driven by a test. Now when we talk about TDD, we talk about outside-in TDD. We talk about having a value, either technical value or business value, demonstrated by a test. Now this helps us greatly because when you want to refactor or even rewrite a library, you know what the feature set is. And you know that all those generic features, actually someone had to drive them via a test and explain the value. Now, even if a contribution wasn't driven by TDD, we still require 100% confidence. Okay? Now, this is very simple. If you don't have 100% confidence, you can't clean the code. Okay? This code is used by 150 microservices on production. I can't accept your contribution if I don't have confidence, because tomorrow I will refactor, and the day after there will be an urgent call by one of our, some of our 76 million users being hurt. So we have to have that confidence. Now, from our experience, mid-sized contributions and up hardly get to this confidence level with, this clicker just doesn't work. Yeah. I'm so sorry for that. Okay, so we see that it's very, very hard to find contributions that are mid-size level and up, which have this confidence without being TDD. But we're open for that discussion. So finally, we come to this slide. So this slide is so important that I want you to take a moment and take out your phones, send it to your coworkers, tweet it out to your friends. Okay, these are elements of a good contribution. Okay, and I'll take this moment to elaborate on a few things that weren't clear. Take a few questions if anyone has it. Okay, excellent. So we had cleaning your own code. We had harnessing contributions. The third step, the third tool, is mentoring others. Now, funny. In the back, I have to give it just one more sec. Good? It's okay. Everything's okay.
You're saying that you should have 100% confidence that you don't have regression. Do you mean that you only require unit tests, or do you require integration tests?
Of course, yeah. For us, unit test is just one tool in a variety of tools of end-to-end test, integration test, acceptance test, unit tests. Yes, unit test is a very important tool, but it's only one part of it. So, mentoring others. Funny thing is that we found ourselves mentoring others only after the fact. It started out with mentoring inside the team. Every new team member that joined the team was basically brainwashed with these concepts in every code review and every discussion and design review, because it was important for us that it would become a second nature, so that when they actually code review other contributions, they are able to spot things and they are able to explain and not just say, oh yeah, the team lead said that, this and this and this has to be. No. If you don't understand why something needs to happen, then don't do it, and sure as hell don't tell anyone else to do it. You have to understand. And as we saw that these interactions inside the team, the ongoing mentorships happen, we suddenly saw that one-time off mentorships start to happen. I told you this code base is read by those 70 developers day in and day out, which means that every team member gets asked questions during the day. Hey, how can I use this feature in that library? Or do you have that feature? Or I saw that you use this third-party library and I want to use it also. Do you have an idea on how should I use it? Now, that conversation starts from that question, but evolves to a lot of other things. And when you actually sit down on code, which is the best kind of conversation that you can have, then you can ask people, hey, by the way, I saw that you're using that feature like that and not like that. Why? Or I saw you have this code duplication. What do you say about, let's do like a quick refactoring session together. And the important part of those interactions are that it reflects to people that you care. Yeah, I didn't touch the clicker now. I swear to you. It reflects to people that it's not that you care about your pristine code base, and on their code base they can do whatever they want. No, you care about the code base as a whole. And whenever you have the chance to interact over code, be it yours or theirs, you talk about the same values, and you help them. You not only just give pointers, but you actually do it with them. So the question arises: did we have to use the infra to promote clean code? A friend came up to me and told me, hey, you know what, you talk about promoting clean code and so on, but I think it's just because the infra team has the best developers, and so, you guys do it. And it took me some time to answer that, because I want to give an honest answer. And I think basically he's wrong, and I'll explain why. Yeah, to be in the infra team, you have to have used a few libraries and a few frameworks to write some, and so the ratio of seasoned developers in that team is highest. But those developers, the seasoned developers, are just the seasoned developers we have in other teams, which just have more juniors. So the big differentiating factor is our decision to own clean code, to promote it. We decided that part of how we measure ourselves inside the team internally is whether or not we see the code base being cleaner. First of all, our code, but all code in general, that contributions become cleaner, that interactions start to surface more and more, and when someone comes and discusses with us about clean code, that is a win for us. And it has to be accompanied by management's backing, okay? By management's understanding that promoting clean code enables velocity. Enables velocity across the code base and across the organization. So, to summarize, how you can take it from here. So first, you have to face it head on. You have to decide that you're going to be active about it. You have to make it a priority, to make it something that you do in and day out. It won't just magically happen. And you have to find your own tools, how you promote clean code inside your own organization. For us, it meant cleaning your own code, harnessing contributions, and mentorship. So at this stage, I'd like to open the floor for a few questions, a few thoughts. No, we'll have that. We'll have it. It's okay.
I will start then. So my question is, how do you actually delete code from the infrastructure? So basically, if your code, if everyone depends on your code, and the code is, and you can't find out who exactly depends on it and where, it's hard to actually improve the code because you end up with a lot of baggage. So how do you clean that up?
Okay, excellent question. I think maybe my laptop is broken because I now closed off the clicker and it still happened. I don't know. Mysteries. Okay, so excellent question. I actually invested. So I'll tell you this. Wix's code base is on GitHub because I spent the greater part of a year moving Wix to GitHub. I did it because I wanted the ability to know which code is used. Okay, I actually wanted free text search, and I had to fight everyone about it. But yeah, the tooling. So I wrote something that checks out all the code base at Wix and allows me to grep on it. I then moved us to GitHub. I then started with a startup that's called Codota that gives you basically find usages across over the code base. They take your bytecode and your source code, and they can give you like bytecode insights to this method that's called get by ID. This is used here and there, and not in the 1,000 places that actually have get by ID. So yeah, this is something that you have to have. Now you can have different levels of tooling, okay, to get that insight. But if you just go cowboy, yeah, I'll just remove those. You'll alienate most people, and you'll either be fired or just not respected very, very soon. By the way, my first at around like my second or third week at Wix. It was more. It was like my second or third week at the infra. I did a change, and I didn't understand how volatile everything was and how everything was public in those libraries. And I did a change for there was a mutable singleton, and I said, yeah, just remove it, and then I pushed, and I was so happy. 10 minutes later, like 3 people, what are you doing? What? Where our code depends on that, and I was like, okay, I thought it was internal. No, it's not internal. I'm using it. I'm like, okay, git revert. Okay, calm down. So yeah.
First of all, thank you for this presentation. What about how to explain it? Priorities. For example, you have a manager that requires and you have your own ability, your own need for a clean code, and they conflict. They just conflict. You just can't do this change properly in a time that your manager requires. What to do?
So okay, so I'll give you the smart-ass answer first, and then the longer one. The smart-ass answer is come work at a company that actually values engineering.
We are hiring.
Yeah, but a little bit less smart-ass, but you're probably familiar, if not, Uncle Bob's quote. He says, if a doctor was requested to not scrub their hands because it will be faster to do the operation, would he agree? No, because he thinks that it's a basic part of how he does his trade. Now, the longer answer is that, yeah, there are priorities, and it takes a lot of maturity from an engineer to be able to balance, right, between basic, like, you can clean the code forever, okay? You can continue and continue and continue. And now you have to develop a sort of, like a scent to know if it's clean enough, okay? If it's something, and clean enough, usually most people stop at dirty, okay? They're clean enough is not clean enough. But they feel that pressure from the manager, and they don't know when to say, hey, I don't know how to do it faster because I want to be able to sleep at night. Okay, basically our basic premise to how we do engineering at Wix is that we like to sleep at night. Okay, we do continuous delivery. We push to production 50, 100 times a day. okay? And we like to sleep at night, and we can't do it if you can't take actually ownership on that. So yeah, there aren't like, really simple answers.
Okay, I'll continue then. Regarding the first question again. So basically, let's talk about not removing code, but um, the code is being written in some conditions. So basically, you need something, and you write code that accomplishes something. And after some time, the conditions just change, and you decide that the old solution was broken, wrong, not fast enough, and so on. So you just develop something new. How do you convince and, well, actually do the transitions when a lot of people depend on you? So you cannot, well, save the old API, but so you need to do something completely different, which accomplishes, well, same or similar tasks, but you need to actually do the transitions for everyone who depends on you. Did you do it? And if you did, so how?
Okay, actually, I have a few use cases. One that I didn't do it, and I kept the
That's
old
why
code.
I'm asking.
Yeah, and one where I did do it. And so first of all, there's the concept of contract tests. Okay, and I think it partially applies here. Contract tests mean that you specify a contract, and that is an abstract test, and then you have implementations, you have tests which are concrete and extended abstract tests, and they try to prove that they answer the same contract. Okay, so you have an acceptance test, talks about the current system. You extract a superclass out of that, and you have the new system. Okay, extend that new class. Once the new system passes those tests, it can replace the old system, okay, because it answers the same contract. Now, if you change the API, it's hard because you have to see how you define, like how you define contract in a more abstract way and not via just API calls. But it's basically the same thing. You have to define the contract because if you change it enough, maybe your users don't want to move. Maybe they want the old contract, even if you think it's worse. So contract test is the first part, to convince yourself and others that you're actually doing it. Second, I try to migrate the first client by myself. Okay, I go and either do it by myself or do it with the person to feel that pain. And that's a very, very crucial part. The next two clients which move have to move alone. Okay, I don't know if you've ever used usability testing. This is usability testing for library developers. You sit there and you can't say anything, and you just see them trying to migrate from one to another. And when you see all the mistakes they're moving, those are your mistakes. Okay, those are mistakes that you have to fix in your API. Once you fix them, then you just say to people, okay, deprecated, please move in the next 3 months. Oh, it's not on?
Can you hear me? Okay, my name is Julia, and I'm actually interested in when are you writing the tests? So it before the writing actually function or together with the code?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we do test-driven design, not only development, and that means that the tests are written before the production code, and more so, the tests drive that code. So when I say they drive the code, it doesn't mean that I have no idea on what the code will be. Sometimes I have no idea, and I just go with it. And sometimes I take like 10 minutes on a whiteboard with someone, and well, yeah, I think it will be something like that. But then if the tests say otherwise, which means that they are hard to test or they are hard to read, then I change the design. So the tests drive my design. They are the validating factor. They tell me whether or not my initial assumptions were correct. So yes, so we always write the tests before, and I hope I won't be offending anyone, but I tried before I of course, like I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago I didn't write any tests, okay, and then I started a bit with writing tests after, and it just felt dumb. Like, okay, how do I know if those tests actually mean anything? They can just be green, you know, whatever. So yeah, I get a kick out of seeing it red, reading the error message, you know, oh yeah, this is something that will help me a year from now when I won't remember why I did it. So yeah, before.
Thank you. Thank you for the talk. The question is about people and
The most important part,
yeah.
seriously.
And the question is, do you have experience of some people resisting these values and how you influence on them? We can often see the excuse like managers don't allow write us tests, and it's often an excuse of bad engineers from my perspective.
I agree. So, let me split the answer to two parts. Okay, one we'll talk about the managers, and one we'll just talk about the engineers themselves. So, so first of all, it's a process. Okay, to actually a lot of times people react like that because they're afraid, because they're unclear on how to meet your standards. I can tell you that junior developer, okay, he is now one of the champions of TDD at Wix, okay? And when we started out, his code was bad, okay? It wasn't out of bad intentions, but he didn't know how to do it. And we put in the effort. We code together. And you know, the part I said about talking, about explaining motivation, not just saying to people, hey, what is this code? Seriously, like, why do you have this code duplication? But you know, actually trying to see, hey, you see that when I extract it, it's more readable. Cool, huh? You can have that also. Now, here again, there is a subclass. Like there are developers that don't care, right? There are developers who don't know enough, but they have some you know care for the code. But there are developers that don't care. For those, try to remove them from your team. Really, no, I'm serious. Developers that don't care kill software systems, and they kill you at the end. Because either you have an ulcer from, you know, like going back, oh yeah, I had to fight with that person again about the code, or you stop caring because you say, hey, you know what, no one else cares. Why should I care? So, just move away from those people. About managers, I think there is a basic problem with how most of us narrate clean code and TDD to our managers. We narrate that it's the correct way to do things, that it's better for some, like, you know, moral value in the sky. It's not. The reason that Wix does, I'll tell you a quick story. Before we did testing and TDD, a version, okay, took around 3 months of QA and around 3 months of stabilizing in production. Okay, this meant we cannot compete in the open market because this is just like a cycle that is endless, and every release was horrible. And the chief architect went to management and told them, do you want an endless stream of features, okay, at high velocity? Do you want to be able to change your mind and have us change the features? And they said, of course. He said, okay, for that, I have to do continuous delivery. I have to be able to give you very small increments all the time. To do continuous delivery, I have to do TDD, because there is no other way for me to be confident about the code. I can't push without me knowing that it actually works. So now it doesn't matter if like you're not a consumer market, you're in banking, you know, yeah, continuous delivery won't work. It's okay. It's irrelevant. The question to management is whether or not they want the graph of velocity to be linear or to be like this. And that's all it's about.
Hi, my name is Valery. Do you collect any code metrics similar to cyclomatic complexity, or maybe it's useless?
So I wouldn't call it useless. I thought about it a few times. We collected in the past. So I think, first of all, most of them are vanity metrics. Yeah, we have good coverage, and more to the point, I think that if they matter in trend, right, in the graph, and not in the actual numbers. And we're not at the state that we feel that it gives us any value, mainly because, like I said, we're working in a microservices based architecture. We have small code bases, or most of our code bases are small and separated, and you have small teams of 3, 5, 6, 8. I think that's the biggest team we have, 8 developers, okay, working on a code base. And when you have that coupled with high ownership, then it's not like you have one folder inside like everyone, and you say, yeah, I know it's not me, it's like the other person. No, it's you and the guy next to you. Who are you kidding?
Hello. Different people have different vision of clean code. How and who decides that code is clean enough? Code is ready to be pushed.
The team, definitely the team. So like the answer the team might be different in your own context, but like I said in the beginning, code is a collaborative effort. The team has to, if the team is the owner of the code base, the team deploys it and they wake up at night or whatever, the team is the owner, then the team decides. Now, if that team has a low standard and they're okay with living with that low standard, so it takes them more time to fix bugs, release new features, they wake up more at night because of that low standard, it's okay. It's their prerogative. But if the team demands a high standard and then someone outside of the team wants to contribute, then they have to conform to that standard, right? So we have a weekly meeting at our server guild, those 70 developers, okay, where we talk about a lot of things. And we talked a few times about having a code standard, and we haven't been able to reach an agreement so far because we value distribution over centralization very, very much. So we haven't been able even to agree on a code style, which I hope we will be able to agree because I think that's very, very basic. But the team is the organic unit responsible for a code base, not the team leader. Okay? If you have a situation where the team leader is the one saying this and that, then it's a problem. The team leader can be the one, settling an argument, but it has to be a very, very fine-grained argument. It can't be the whole team does TDD. I've seen people do that. Their TDD is, it's better off without TDD.
Hello, Ittai. Thanks for the talk. I have a question. If you have some complex project and remote contributors, I find sometimes it's really hard to accept the contributions because sometimes people just want to extend the project for their purpose or for some needs of the company in some direction which doesn't correspond to architecture, and the pull requests should be sometimes just rewritten from scratch because it just does a bit wrong stuff. And sometimes it requires a lot of explanation to those remote contributors and a lot of effort. How do you solve this stuff if you have encountered this problem?
Definitely. So I think it's first of all, it's a matter of what are your objectives. Like I told you, my manager told me, I want everyone to be able to contribute. Now, if that is what guides us, then then we will do whatever is in our power to be able to help that remote contributor contribute. Now, now again, there is a difference here with intent. So if the contributor, we demand from people not to start with a pull request. The pull request is the end of the conversation, not the beginning. The beginning is an email, a chat, a Slack, a GitHub issue, a Jira issue, whatever you'd like, but it has to be a conversation. Hey, I want this feature. What do you say? You know, if it's a project that has a mailing list, send it to the mailing list. Talk about whatever you think. Have that, surface it and be actively even aggressive about that for anything that's above very, very small, and explain to contributors, I want your contributions, I want to discuss it. You can't shove down my throat like a whole refactor and then be upset about why I don't accept it. So if it starts with a discussion, then of course it can branch. You can have a disagreement. The person wants to take the library a different place. Too bad. If you're the owner, then you decide what the direction is. He can of course escalate, right? Like there is, at the end there is a manager on top of it all. So if he thinks that you're wrong and you're jeopardizing the company, or you don't want to do it because it's him, he should escalate, and you need to have good answers on why you think you're correct. But if he has a good intentions and he just doesn't know how to do it, make sure to do it with him. Schedule a day where you just you do ping pong, whatever it takes, but give people the power to be able to do it.
About the start of doing TDD, how fast you can
I think it's not working. Okay.
Do you hear me well now? Yeah.
Okay.
How fast you get the feedback from doing TDD? How fast you gain from doing it? So how fast and how valuable the profit, like from the first experience once you started doing that? So.
It's a good question. I don't know. I try to think, because I think you gain value very fast, but in a wrong way. So no seriously, like from not doing tests at all to doing TDD, you get a lot of gain. Okay, but I can guarantee that 6 months from now or a year from now, you'll take a look at those tests where you were super proud of at the beginning, and you say, oh my God, that's not TDD. What was I doing? Seriously, what kind of feedback did I think I was getting? So TDD it's a hard methodology. Okay. Again, it was seem like a shameless plug, but I can tell you that we have huge amount of infrastructure at Wix for this purpose. It's very easy to do TDD at Wix. Okay, both in terms of guidance of a lot of tens of people doing TDD and walking those steps, and software. We have for almost anything you want. We have matches, we have fakes, we have embedded servers. We have a lot of machinery in place because we want to lower that entry of barrier. But I did TDD in other companies. It can be hard, especially if you're in a startup. No one does TDD. No one knows how to do TDD. Yeah, it will be hard. Reach out to the community. Try to find people in the community that are willing to teach you, that are willing to collaborate with you. I think that TDD is best taught with people. Try to organize a code retreat. By the way, I don't know if you've done here.
No.
Okay, so.
Well.
So organize a code retreat. That's one of the best ways to start fiddling with TDD.
Assume that now. Assume I am the one person in the team who now started to understand that I have to do TDD. How to start doing that when nobody yet in the team doing that? Not to be killed by them, still survive and get the profit from it.
Okay, so first you have to understand that you are going down a rough path. Okay, it's hard doing TDD in a team that doesn't do TDD. It's very, very hard. But a few pointers is first of all, ask for code reviews. Okay, use them as a means of explaining to people your motivation, the gains that you see. Okay, when you see, when you ask for code review, and you tell them, hey, you see, what do you think, by the way, what do you think about this test? Yeah, it talks about this, and it surfaced this misunderstanding of my code. So that's one thing. I can tell you pair programming, but if a team doesn't do TDD, I don't know if a team that does pair programming and doesn't do TDD. But you can ask and suggest pair programming in a less formal way, just like hey, let's have a half an hour on that and try and promote it like that. But at the end, people have to want it. So yeah.
Which approach do you use for code that works with persistence? For doing TDD, for code which works with persistence or external services?
So okay, so basically we have a lot of embedded servers. Okay, the answer is this. First of all, we have end-to-end tests of a single service, and those use embedded MySQL, embedded Cassandra, embedded Mongo, embedded Elasticsearch, whatever you want. Okay, we have embedded Kafka. Almost everything we have, and whatever we don't. Sometimes we won't choose, by the way, a technology if we can't do it embedded. But you have it embedded, and the tests drive it. So the tests start the embedded MySQL, for example, and they set up the database, and they go and they talk to the system. Okay, let's say let's take the simplest case, right? A CRUD. So you start up the MySQL with the tables that you need, and then you go to the API of a create, then you go to the API of the read, and then you just have it. And when you shut down the test, then the embedded MySQL goes, and it's destroyed. So that's one part. The second part, and that's more important even, is that you start to modularize your production code so that you push the persistence to the boundaries. So you have very small parts of your code that are actually dependent on those implementation details. Most code doesn't know, it doesn't care if you're using MySQL, Cassandra, or whatever. And that allows you to write very fast acceptance tests with a RAM product DAO, okay? And you just have a few end-to-end and a few integration tests that again start up that embedded Cassandra and see that that the CQL that you write indeed generates whatever you need.
What about the tools you actually use? You mentioned pull requests, so I assume you use Git. Do you use Git flow, GitHub flow, or something?
No.
No at all.
No, not at all. Yeah, we work on master. Okay, everyone works on master. They're continually integrated, so we don't have any versions at Wix. We have versions for third-party libraries and for the internal framework. So basically, the internal framework is it is versioned, but it's not up to the services to define the version. So basically, there is like a magical place, okay? Like if you know Maven, there's like a base parent that says that the version of the framework is 10. And then when the team decides to release the version, it happens twice a day, okay? It doesn't happen like once a month. Twice a day they release the framework, then that base parent now increments to 11 and 12 and so on and so on. And that is mainly because our CI system is not, it's still working on scale to be able to push, for every push to those shared infrastructure, it will build the entire Wix code base. But we hope to be there in a year from now. So everything will be on master, everything is on snapshot, and you just continually integrate all the time.
Okay, what about code reviews? Do you use some external tools for code reviews, like, don't know,
No,
Gary?
actually, we don't. So, surprisingly enough, we don't do code reviews. So, I say surprisingly because you know it sounds like naturally that we would do code reviews. Okay, for contributions, when you want, of course, then we just use GitHubs. Yeah, and it's basic, but it gets the job done. It's not that good, but it gets the job done. But we haven't. I don't know why. I think people are afraid. People are afraid of committing the time. Doing code review takes time. Okay, it takes a significant amount of time, and people are afraid to be blocked. So if I now do a pull request, and now I have to wait until you get around to it, or I have to do a context switch for you. So we started in a few teams. There are 4 teams. We have like, I don't know, 10, 12 teams. We have 4 teams that do it, partly because regulations demand it. Okay, because we are under PCI and SOX and so on and so on. So we have to do it, and it's okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So, just closing words. Clean code is like deodorant. If you don't use it, your coworkers will hate you. This is my Twitter handle. As I hope you've noticed, I'm very passionate about the subject. So, I'm here for the rest of the evening, and you can reach out to me via Twitter. I'm be happy to continue the conversation. I think clean code is, oh yeah, what the shit, yeah, forget about it totally. It's totally our way of growing up as an industry. Thank you.